Hi guys, Harry Yotis here. I thought I'd take today, August 16th, Sunday, to talk about a good setup that I see in a stock that I've been following for a while. We made a previous video on it back when it IPO'd in March, and the stock is called Fundrise Innovation Fund. It is a closed-end mutual fund that invests in pre-IPO venture capital type stocks, and these are the holdings. Okay, it holds Anthropic, Databricks, OpenAI, SpaceX, now that's public, Anduril, and other defense and fintech unicorns. Okay, so if you want access to these companies, Anthropic, Databricks, etc., you can't because they're private, but you can if you indirectly if you invest in this company, and this is why I like it. Okay, so this company has a net asset value of $19 per share. And it's trading currently at 34.40. Okay, it IPO'd back in March where we made this at 30, went all the way to 550, and it dropped all the way back down. Okay, so now why did it do that? Well, because when it IPO'd, a lot of the shares were being locked up, and the float was only about 2 to 3 million shares outstanding, and maybe up to 5 million, they were saying. So very, very thin float ripped this stock massively. Okay, and we said don't chase it, it's a thin float, just wait. Okay, wait, and I think now would be a good time to enter. Okay, because right now very, very special things are happening. On Friday, which is this candle here, it's tough to see, let's blow it up. Okay, as you can see here, on Friday there was huge volume in the stock, much higher volume than ever before, and the price barely moved. Okay, and the volume was about 3.86 million shares. Okay, and it barely moved. Okay, for months the stock was consolidating. Okay, this is what I like. I like the strong technical base. Okay, they were waiting because the lockup provision is going to expire on August 13th or August 14th, and then boom, a lot of supply was going to come in, and people were scared that it would tank the stock. But look, a lot of supply did come in, but it was bought up. Okay, I think I had a bid at $30 right at the IPO price, and it swept me, and I got long. Okay, the reason I like this stock is that now the lockup provision is out. We see the actual trading results here, and you saw that the market absorbed a huge supply coming in, which I like. Okay, and another thing to note is that, let's go back to normal here. Another thing to note is that now this figure right here, where we had the float back in the day in March of 2026, was about 2 million. Now we can just get rid of this. Okay, because now the float is basically all of the shares, 36 million shares outstanding. Okay, so this, and people would say, yeah, but why are you buying it at 35 when the net asset value is 19? Are you overpaying? Well, the net asset value is based on probably the last funding round and a very private figure. Okay, so they're valued at 19, but that has nothing to do with the actual market trading price. Okay, and you can see that for a while it's been consolidating around the 35, mid 30s, let's say, for a long time. So this is probably fair value at this point. Okay, maybe fair value mixed with fear of huge supply coming in, but we have that question answered. This supply came in and was bought up. We saw demand stepping in and buying the stock. Okay, it still has OpenAI, Databricks that come out, Anduril. These are big companies. Okay, and if they would be valued at $1 trillion each or whatever, this stock is going to be well over 100. Okay, so you could have, after today's float, we have to see how it trades. I like it. I stepped in a bit. I bought a half position, but I like the fact that it's trading like this based off of fear, and basically half. You just had half the story, half a narrative, meaning that supply is coming in. Like again, we keep mentioning, we don't know demand. So on Friday, we saw demand step up, okay? And I have a feeling it might trade. Not exactly, okay? Because it's not exactly the same, like SpaceX. You guys remember SpaceX? Okay, right before earnings, they ripped the stock, but then they tanked because a lot of shares were coming online. People were afraid that it would tank the stock with a lot of supply coming in, but nope. Again, they only knew half the battle, half the story. The other half was they didn't know the demand, and the demand proved to be huge. The stock went below 100 for a little while, and then now it's up back to 140. Yes, this stock is in an index, so it has to be bought, so it's not the exact same thing as VCX, but I still see that. I still like the technical setup, and of course the fundamentals. You're buying all these AI type stocks and unicorns and companies that are in demand. Okay, so this is why I took a half position, and this is why I like the stock. I expect it to have another run up to $100 fairly soon. I don't know if this supply crunch is over. I think maybe people had their fill. Who knows? We'll see next week. But I like the fact that getting in at this level, technically speaking, after a long base would be great. Okay, where would be the breakout? 100 would be nice. Anything above like 50s would be a good move. Okay, so that's it, guys. I like the fact that VCX has now a lot of float coming in. It's not going to be very, very as thin as it was before. You're going to have a more liquid market, a more accurate price discovery mechanism going forward. And the market here was telling you, okay, that this is probably a good price to enter. All right. And you do have the net asset value, a low case scenario of $19 a share. So maybe that's your bottom price. If it ever goes there, save some ammunition to buy some more there. Okay. So that's it, guys. VCX. I like the setup. Later.